Hello and welcome to this BIM one-on-one event, one of the series that is happening the season 2021. Here we have Revit versus OpenBuildings, quite different platforms. This event is sponsored by BIM Week and BIM Campus. Here we have one of the best experts of Revit in the world. Hello, Decio. It's an honor to be here. Decio is an architect, urbanism technologist, senior BIM manager with a lot of experience, not only with the Revit and so on in Autodesk applications, associated in fostering partners in UK. You know that is a world office, a speaker at Autodesk University, and one of the most recognized experts in Autodesk BIM solutions. Hello, Decio.
Hi, Gustavo. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you, everyone, to be here with us. And yeah, special thanks to Silvio that will be with us here for the next hour or so. So thanks for the, for your kind words.
And then here, the fellows, the BIM team fellows, I say, Silvio, architect, urbanism technologist, one of the guys of Bentley. Bentley has they developed the careers in Brazil, but are becoming more at the world level consultant, especially in Bentley products. Silvio is a senior BIM manager and CTO of their own company with the partners Parsec BDC company that is in Sao Paulo in Brazil. Is a Bentley senior consultant, a lot of years of experience, but we are all architects here. It's not a bad thing, I guess. And specialized in education and training in Industry 4.0. The activity with Siemens is astonishing. In Brazil are happening things. Someday, Silvio will tell us. Hello, Silvio, how are you?
Hello, Gustavo. Hello, Decio. Thank you for the inviting. It's very nice to be with you today.
And then we open the event. You know, it's quite interesting, two different solutions here, but I am Gustavo Ferreiro, the host of this event, and we'll start with the first block. We have 4 blocks here in this presentation, you know, and then the first presentation, the first block is BIM performance, automation, and maintenance. The first block is in technology. We're interested in the architecture of the environment. We are interested not only in to know the architecture and your opinion about the powerful of this system, because we are talking about systems. And Decio, if you can start explain the architecture of the system and the advantage that you see in the architecture, and some advice of the things that will happen in the future, you can say. It's an open question, okay? Will be open questions. Be free to.
Okay. Thank you, Gustavo. Yeah. Anyway, regarding from the Revit side, Revit is a very known piece of software. It's from Autodesk, as all of us know, and there's a lot of users all over the world which is using Revit in different ways. So the good thing from Revit, or one of the things, the most interesting things that I can see in Revit, it's this, ability or kind of interoperability between different disciplines, in between different softwares, disciplines, whatever. So that's one of the main, most interesting things that I can find when working in Revit. So it's flexible in a way where you can do big buildings, complex buildings with complex geometry, using specific kind of, programming tools on top of it. You can do simple buildings, small buildings. You can use that one only for modeling, modeling purpose. You can use it for BIM purposes. So BIM, it's not only a matter of knowing how to work with a piece of software, with Revit or OpenBuilding or any other one software. It's more relating everything, all the data which is inside of the building, how to export and extrapolate all this information towards different piece of softwares. And I think this is one of the most amazing things that I can see in this case in Revit. Okay, so it's easier, like even if you want to work with the one single file, you can work with one single file in your own computer. You can work in the cloud. You have the work sharing environment where you can have more than one file per discipline, have everything integrated, straight away. No, like no problems whatsoever with this one. And again, because this Autodesk portfolio, they have like a bunch of software which is related with the construction and the industry itself. It's quite easy, like it's not easy for sure, and we are struggling a lot with some issues in a daily basis, but at least it's easier, let's call this way, when you want to integrate all these disciplines in the same federated model, if you can say it. You know what I
Okay,
mean? So,
federated
so
model.
yeah. So this is one of the most interesting things. I can bring in, things from Rhino, from AutoCAD, from OpenBuildings, from an IFC, for example. So it's quite flexible, and even exporting is pretty much the same. Like, you can export almost in any, open BIM formats
Okay.
or data formats or, model, because everyone wants
Okay.
to interact, let's say, with Revit and with the platform itself.
Okay. Silvio?
As for open buildings, we could say many things about the same architecture with federated models, with several solutions, as I understand. The main point is that the old Bentley users understand this structure of the federated model using a single file. I think the difference is probably there, that all the different applications for different areas of knowledge are using a single file, the BIM file. So the only problem is that I understand it's from 20, 25 years ago. So I think it's time to change this in something within all this structure, because it's a good idea to have a single file for all the different disciplines. But also we have problems when we want new information. We have to block one information over the other, because all the disciplines sometimes merge areas of knowledge. So the process is getting more complex today than it was before, when we were just managing geometry in the beginning of the process. So BIM has evolved a lot, and I understand that this competition between all the great software manufacturers, this competition is good because everyone is working towards a good tool to work with on our daily work. Okay. So I understand Bentley has a good solution, but we have to move on and work in the future for a more integrated solution in probably in other ways. I'm not a programmer or a computer designer for software solutions, but I understand that as a user, I prefer to not deal with the programming and focus on the design, on the architecture design, and less in programming.
Okay. If I understand, the conclusion is you talk about multi-file or not? Because I know that Silvio, that is multi-file versus we are talking about one file, but it's a federated model. It's synchronized one each other in the case of Revit, and multi-file in the case managed by some system or BIM server in the case of, we are talking about the environment, not yet talking about the collaboration comes in the second block. I guess you defend the software so good. I love Revit and I love Bentley because you are committed with the software. But I understand that the dimension of the collaboration in the disciplines and go back and forth for a company like Foster, in the case of Parsec, that works also in projects in collaboration with other softwares and solution and mixing. I am convinced that, that our watchers are seeing that everything is not only a solution but an understanding of the systems and then apply. And then thank you for that. Performance. What do you think about the performance of Revit and OpenBuildings? The performance is, if you thought that the performance is not so high for a large project, but in this case we have an advantage. We have here somebody that has a lot of experience with large projects, and for sure you know that Silvio has a lot of experience in large projects. We have an opportunity here to see which is actually the performance of Revit and the performance of Bentley. In your opinion about that, and if in the future the companies are working on the increase the speed, or is based on advanced in computation or advanced on the speed on internet?
Yeah, actually, Gustav, that's a very good question, because it's one of the questions that I'm always thinking on a daily basis, let's call this way, because performance, it's not only, it can be affected for so many places. It can be from your computer, it can be from the way that you are modeling, it can be from the, the server where you are saving and synchronizing the information, if it's BIM 360, if it's in our premises, there's a lot of things that can affect directly the performance of the whatever you are doing. And it doesn't matter if it's a big project or a small project, because one of the things that for me, it's like crystal clear is no one should be working in one single file. At least we need to have like one file per discipline. Okay, one for architecture, one for structural engineering, one for electrical engineering, one for, like mechanical, all of them. So all of them should have like a proper model, which again, doing all this breakdown of the model, it's easier because then we are going to start talking about a small, like it's not small, but like I would say as an average 100 megabyte, 150 megabytes. I think the maximum I would say from my side and from my experience, I would say 250, 300, it should be the maximum. More than that, we need to break down the model because it will affect the performance for sure. And then if you are breaking down per zoning, per areas, per levels, per whatever, it will increase that much more the performance. I'm taking some bits and pieces from here and there with regards, like again, the intranet, latency, all these things that is, it's flying around the project and the environment that we are working. But from the Revit side, even if you are, breaking down all this information, it's easier. Okay, but again, at the end of the day, we need to put everything together in one single file, for example, to produce drawings, like sheets for the sheet production. And when you are putting all this information together, that's the challenging bit that we have, you are facing always with Revit. And how, for example, from my understanding, from my point of view, how Autodesk can increase or can, do in a better way, let's say. It's like, in some tasks in Revit, they are only using 1 core or 2 cores. So even if you have 8 cores in your, computer, that's a very big issue because it doesn't matter. You can have like a super powerful computer, but then Revit will use like this, small portion of it. So, when we are doing like doing the benchmark for our computers, it doesn't matter if it's for a big project, small projects, medium project, it doesn't matter, it depends on the company, the practices itself. Because when we are doing that, we need to make sure that, you can manage all this information into, into a single file. But again, this is quite important, doing all this testing thing on the benchmark thing, because it it will be affected for a lot of things all over the place that it will affect the performance. But I think, changing this, dual core or multi-core usage for all the tasks that we have in Revit is one of the good things. And the second thing is the work sharing tools. So the work sharing tools, I mean, I don't want to say that's, it's a bit old school. It's not that, but still, I think it needs to be a bit more improved. There's a lot of space to improvement into that one. For sure, when we are working again in our premises, or if you are working with Revit Server, or if we are working with Talon, or if we are working even with BIM 360, some of these small, like solutions, let's call this way, they improve because it depends where the server is. For example, BIM 360, we can have servers here in Europe, we can have servers in US, and since last version, when Autodesk gave to the users the new server here in Europe, it's much way faster, much all the synchronization process and everything. So again, performance-wise, there's a lot of things that maybe we'll be talking about this later on.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things which it's involved on this one. But there's a lot of things that Autodesk can improve. And again, there's one small big thing, like long short story, which is the way that you are modeling. This will affect a lot the way that your Revit model will perform during the drawing, the design development, let's say, especially when you're importing things from Rhino.
Silvio,
Yes.
all yours.
It is very interesting, Decio, because when thinking about it, yes, we have also the same problems when we have to deal with larger models with several disciplines together. And also the consideration for the larger file that we prefer to handle is 30 megabytes. Okay, this is just a difference between probably the architecture of the file. But for us, it's better to work with 30 to 60 megabytes of each file. So we federate the model this way. But as I understand, when we process the model to create the drawings, the sheets, it will always be a problem because if it's a single file or several files, the program has to process all the files and we have the same problem, the time to process everything. Every time we have to deal with larger projects, we have to face this problem because 1 or 2 days just to process all the models to create some drawings or to create the coordination model, for example. It's always a problem for us, and I believe it's a question of a matter of the design of the software. Because if you think in Siemens, NX, or the Socatia, they were using multiprocessors since the beginning. But we are working with software which probably were designed to use personal computers that did not have these multi-core processors. And we also, as I understand, I feel that sometimes this is a bottleneck for working, the processing time for larger models. So every time every time we need to work with larger models, our idea is also the same, to split the model in several small parts. Sometimes the discipline is split in 10 or 20 different models, smaller models, so we can, in the end, we feel that if there are smaller files, the time to process is less than the time to process a larger one at the single time. So yes, I also agree that we have to have these programs working with multi-core processors, using all the resources that are available in hardware. I see that this is a problem today, but we work with what we have in our hands today. We we do this splitting the models in a federated model with several files because we have this problem.
Yeah.
If we had a hardware that could handle a single DGN file with everything inside, of course it would be not always interesting, but sometimes it's good to have one single file to work on and to manage to do the backup and so to check if everything is up to date. A single file is faster to check. We just see the date of the file and it's okay. But when we have several files split in several folders, we have to deal with the concern to lose information if someone accidentally deletes a file within 100 files. We will just understand, we will just notice that this file is missing in the end of the process when we will check the drawings. So it's always a problem.
Okay, to be sure about that, because you are so skilled, and then you are putting the problem first. One interesting thing is two quick questions. First, skills to improve performance. What is your opinion? And on the other side, if you are comfortable with the performance, easier. A quick answer. If you are comfortable with the performance right now, and then in the market there is a product that is working good, okay, Decio?
Yeah, I mean, for me, skills, it's essential, like it's king, as I used to say, it's important for users know exactly what they are doing, no matter if they are doing, in Revit, or because at the end of the day, everything needs to go into Revit. So if they don't know how to model things properly, if they don't know which kind of information they need to be added into the elements, because it's not only a matter of, modeling, it's a matter of data as well. BIM, it's not only geometry, it's geometry plus all this data that we need to fill that into the model. So if the user, they don't know, they don't have this knowledge, they don't have this expertise, that's a big problem, I would say, yes.
And you are comfortable with the performance right now?
From Revit? No, never. I mean, we always want more. It's kind of okay-ish, but still there's a lot that they need to improve. You know what I mean? Because otherwise you need to have like other, like we need to follow other paths, like workarounds, as you want to call them, just to avoid those kind of performance issues, because we know that we'll face them if you are not careful. And again, this is super important that the users itself, our team, design teams, whomever is designing and modeling things, they need to know it.
Also, I agree with that. Skills are very important, because if we have an unskilled professional working with in our project, of course it will be a problem. We will have to redo the work every time, especially because we are dealing now not just with the graphical model. We also have information in this model. In information, we have to check if the data associated with the object is correct, and if the user does not have the skills to understand why we are doing this, why we are modeling in a way and not in other ways, it can be also a problem. But I think every software has this issue, because if a user does not know how to use a tool, he will misuse it. It's obvious. And same as that.
Are you comfortable? Are you comfortable more or less, or is like Decio? I mean.
Yes, it's like that, more or less. I would prefer to have better things, but we don't have today. So when we find solutions to deal with problems, it's because the tool has some issues to resolve in the future.
In the case of this event, is trying to explain people that are not BIM managers or trying to buy licenses or decide a solution with advice of a BIM manager and needs some advice, some information to know in the easiest way. And then the message is, if the performance is not enough, we have here the BIM managers that are improving and requesting the software makers. And fantastic. I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. Okay, let's go to another different thing. It's automation, but automation in two different kind of ways. The first way is at modeling, is the automation of the system. This is if you can prepare the system probably with the skills that we are always insisting on the skills and abilities to improve the automation. And on the other side, the algorithmic environments to automate the design and create something that is different, that is not really can be done from the elements. Okay, is automation and the possibility to automate the task. 20% of the task is 80% of the work, and then you can automate modeling process and the other algorithmic design. That's you.
Well, automation, I would say, and this is one of the good things in Revit, because it's quite easy if you have this computational or programming skills, like to develop like a script in Dynamo or in Grasshopper, or even using the Revit API, like doing a proper plugin. So it's easier on that way, like it's simple to do the things. The Revit itself, out of the box, there's no big programming, tools available. So we need always to go through the API or through Dynamo, like using Dynamo visual programming. And then it's quite easy because, as the proper name says, it's visual programming. So it's a matter of, connecting boxes from here till there. It's pretty much the same with Rhino. So yes, we can now integrate in the easiest way, with Rhino inside factory, whatever, the plugin, where we can use Grasshopper on top of Rhino, and then importing all the scripts and everything into Dynamo versus Revit or whatever. So all this automation, yes, it's super possible to do on top of Revit. Revit, it's only a database. Well, it will, deal with all this information and interact with all these softwares from the, the design point of view. But yeah, if you have these skills, you can do whatever. And again, this is what I used to say to my team, quite often is, if they are doing this exactly the same task, like doing like something like click here, click there, click here, click there, more than 5 times, yes, it can be automated. If it's something that they are doing on a daily basis here and there, okay, it doesn't worth, like doing programming. It depends how long it will take. But again, with Dynamo, which is a built-in like plugin, piece of software, which works on top of Revit, it's quite easy to automate those ones. And then if you want, to get that plugin on a better, high, performance and faster, when you are running the script or whatever, then yes, you need to use programming. You need to use Python, for example, on top of, Dynamo, or you need to go through the API, because working with API, it's like working with the organs, like straight into Revit. It's not through the programming thing, which, connect the dots into the Revit. With API, it's different. The way that it works, it's much way effective, from the automation point of view.
Silvia?
There's a point when we have to have the skills of the programming skills is a big problem, big issue for architects like us, because for me it's quite difficult. I understand the process, and as we say, Bentley has this generative component for a long time. They are developing this, and in the last edition from OpenBuildings, the generative components is now within the workflow. Workflows are a part of the core of OpenBuilding. When we are working, we can change workflows from one another, and it presents several tools, including, for example, the reality modeling for count points and for narrative component, for example, for this programming. So there are tools for automation since since the beginning, because when we started using MicroStation, we ever used it, and whenever we need an automation, we could program inside the software using, it was called MicroStation Basic, and we could program anything inside. Just as you said, if we do the same task, clicking 5 times the same buttons, it's worth to develop an application. That's what we did before. But now we have these tools, the generative component, generative design. So it's better now, but as a user, it's my point of view, I would prefer to see things more transparent than dealing with programming in my daily work. I would prefer an easier. I know that using these little boxes and clicking and linking them together to process a task, it's better, much better than programming in each line. So we had to do the comments in lines.
For sure.
It's much better because it's visual. But even though this is still a programming, we have to think like a programmer, step by step, and track everything. If we do any wrong link, if you do a mistake, the programming doesn't work. So we have to find where is the mistake, and this is very it's very complicated for probably for me because I'm an architect, not a programmer. But I believe for a programmer is easier. So if you have the right professional to do that, of course it's much faster and easier. You have to have people with the right skills, not to have one single person who do everything in the office.
Okay.
Yeah, but just to add one thing on top of what Sylvie was saying, which is really important, because like you're working with visual programming, it's easy to do, but it's easy as well to corrupt a file, a model. Like if with a small mistake, then the file goes boom. Then you need to do all over again. So that's the tricky part, like it's tricky. And again, it's a matter of skills. And the architects, some of them, I would say the majority, almost, all of them, they don't have, well, when they are studying in the uni, they don't have, like programming, skills and yeah, classes or whatever. So it's quite difficult. But again, there's a few couple, architects all over the place that they have, like when they are studying in unis, they have this certain kind of, skills, programming skills. And yes, and we can see, at least I can see from where I am, that there's a lot of people with architectural background with programming skills, which is great. I don't have it, by the way, like, and when I saw Dynamo working on top of AutoCAD, it was not Dynamo. They used to call Design Script, I think. It was on top of AutoCAD. It was in 2010, I think, when I was back in when I was in the Autodesk University in Las Vegas. And I was surprised when I was in a classroom. We were around 160 people in that class. It was a massive class. And when the trainer asked who's architects, and I saw like 70% with they were architects with programming skills. And I said, well, I'm screwed because I need to start learning, programming from that day. After 11 years, I'm still trying and pretending to do that one. Anyway.
I will connect the dots, the automation and maintenance, because you go all the way. I'm comfortable with that. Okay, it's okay.
You are the leader, Gustavo. You are the leader, so you need to drive, the session. Otherwise, we're going to start talking, about everything.
Yeah. I need to put there on the way. Okay, maintenance. This kind of thing is connected with automation. My intention with the question of automation is how we improve and learn about several things that we are doing a lot of times, and then the system, the question of the system doing the right job is one of the questions of the maintenance. If the design of the environment, or your environment first, if the design of the environment saves a lot of time because it's thought by the right guys, technologists, but architects, but engineers, you know. And then if the design of the environment saves time in the maintenance, if you can improve with the knowledge, with the use, you can improve with the context. For example, you in Foster and Partners or in Parsec and CMS projects, in the case of Silvio, in your experience, the maintenance of your system is easy. It's easy to put there a solution that is contextual and you are working once and using many times, okay? And if there is needed, one important thing is needed something that is out of the scope of a little office, for example, of architects, is IT managers, some procedures, is complicated to download, to maintain even the software, okay? All this piece of things that creates the daily basis of the work of the offices, okay? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, from my side, yes, I think I would say it's important to have someone with the right expertise to deal with these things, because there's a lot of things that can happen. You know, there's a lot of things happening in the internet, sites. There's a lot of hackers, so you need to make sure that whatever we are downloading, they are secure. We need to know exactly what we are, installing. We need to know exactly which version we are installing to make sure that all the computers across the office they are always using exactly the same version. And the version, it's not only the 2019 or 2020 or 2021. Sometimes it's, we need to make sure that all of them are using the 2021.1 or 0.2, which Enscape version they are using, why we are not using the Revit 2021.3 because it's already available. So there's a lot of procedures because from the maintenance side of things, this will affect like a lot when you are working a project. And some cases, and I've experienced this in the past, some of these problems that can come up, like, okay, so now we have this issue. This is massive issue, and it will have like a huge impact in the project, the way that it's working. So if we don't have all these procedures, all this control, who can download, who can use, who can install, whatever, if you don't have this control, it's a risky one. It's a super, super, super risky. Even if the Autodesk, like installing, downloading softwares from the software center, whatever they are using, it's quite easy. It's one-click job. You can just click there and it installs straight away into your computer. Now with this online, licensing thing, with your user ID, email ID, you can just simple log in and you go straight to your account. From the practice wide, it's easier. But then on top of that, we need to control it for sure.
Adding to that, I would say it's easier for me to do the maintenance, but when I have to explain someone who will help me to do the maintenance, it's a complex task because there are several layers of knowledge, because I started working with Bentley solutions almost 30 years ago. So the information came within several layers in my head. So I know where things are because I'm used to. But when I have to explain someone, it's difficult because there are several tricky parts. If we do some mistake, we have a problem with the system. This is one point. So I believe they should change some things, but it's not a problem from Bentley. I believe it's a problem from the structure, from the operating system that requires the information to be somewhere, which is not the problem folder. It's a problem, always a problem to explain that our configuration or the project is somewhere else. Of course, we can change things, but to explain someone who never saw Bentley systems, they will have a problem to understand why the information is layered this way, why we can have the information repeated 3 times, and this is a tricky question, why we have this. And we have this, we have 3 different layers. The information can be overlayered. In the end, only one is the valid one. This is complicated to explain. So back to the start, a good skilled professional is important, and skilled in Bentley programs and also in programming. And after this understanding how the solution works, it can be used in any way, if locally or using project-wise to do this maintenance. It will be easier if the the professional who do the maintenance has this knowledge. So back again, skill is very important here also.
Yeah, just one small thing that I want to add on this one. Yeah, from the Autodesk side, it's quite simple and straightforward. It's a matter of double clicking, and I can understand the whole thing, as you can imagine. But depending of the size of the practice, for example, just a quick, as Silvio was explaining, all the things need to be installed in a structured way, on a sequence way. First Revit, then all the plugins, and then whatever, and then whatever. So if you need to follow all this system, to install in a few couple of computers in this order, exactly the same way, because we know that all the softwares across the practice, they will work exactly the same way, and they'll have the same behave and everything. Only to install all these computers in 100, 200, 1000, 1500 computers, just to manage how it will be implemented in the practice, it's difficult. It's not like I'm not going one by one installing 1500 computers, or 100. It doesn't make sense, because you will miss one small setting and it will take you forever. You know what I mean? So all this process, okay, I can do it in my computer, local computer, if I have permissions to do that. But, practice-wide, it's more difficult.
Wow, you are opening the software as a service future possible, and the question of the maintenance, the question of large offices, and not so large projects. Quite interesting. I don't go this way because we close the block of performance and then go to the collaboration block. We are dividing, splitting the session in 4 parts because we need to control over the discourse. You have a lot of we have for the watchers, if they want my advice and uses my advice, here we have an incredible case of one of the most advanced Revit users and offices in the world, with large projects, little projects, medium projects, and then you have some skills, Decio, that is not usual in the case of Revit. And on the other side, Silvio is one of the defendants and one of the warriors about personal computers, people entering in Bentley software from the bottom up, and then Bentley becoming more personal computer professional, entering from the bottom up. Okay, and then this is an opportunity of large projects from Revit, not known, and little projects and little maintenance, little tricky with a large organization. And let's go to the collaboration. And that's another question about the architecture of the collaboration. And 13 data about the collaboration, which is the architecture, which is the server or the infrastructure right now, because 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, is evolving day by day. This is a software as a service, or platforms on internet creates some advantages. And then, which is the architecture of collaboration, if it's role-based or not. And in the introduction is classifications, and data dictionary in some part. But let's talk about which is the system, which is the architecture of the collaboration. You talk about Revit, but Revit is the only file. The federated model is really the architecture. One file is really the architecture of each Revit, okay? And then we are talking about the federated model, and let's talk about that. And the role-based, or which kind of administration you need to do in a project based with Revit or with OpenBuildings.
Okay, Silvio, can you start now? Because I'm always starting the first one, so now I think we can do the other way around.
Okay.
I don't know, Gustavo, it's on you, but yeah.
No, I'm comfortable with you. You know, we know each other for
okay.
For a long time, and I guess we are. I am the only one that are not the expert for this session. Go ahead,
Silvio. Yeah.
Okay, Project Rise is now under a big change because it was always a local server. Usually, it was a local server. 10 years ago, they started to implement an internet service. To tell the truth, in the 90s, 1995 to be exact, Bentley provided an internet solution called Bentley Vault, which was a repository for information for your projects, just as it was the beginning of Project Rise. But at the time, there was not enough infrastructure for internet or even the intranet for the companies. So I think it was launched before the time it was needed, but the idea was there. So now Bentley is now migrating project-wise from the local servers to the software as a service. You just as you pay for the time that you use. So Project Rise is basically not only a repository for files, but also it manages the workflows, role-based, and the files of the project within them. Especially for federated models, this is the important point for us that we are using. We use OpenBuildings. The interesting part is that Project Rise can manage within this federated model, managing the relation between them, the references, for example. If I want a file, it can manage this structure for me. I don't have to think if I have downloaded all the files that I need to work in a part of the project, because if I get a file, the Project Rise understands that it has several other files linked to it, so I have to get everything. Not only the GN files, but also doc files, everything from Microsoft Office, anything that installed in a computer. As I was checking in a client, there needed some managing of the files for Adobe files, Photoshop and Illustrator, for example. So you can manage also with opening the program and using the information just as it was within Project Rise. This is different, a little different from other solutions that we are checking. But as I said, Project Rise is a good workflow manager for engineering and architecture projects. This is the strongest point of that.
Roles? Don't miss roles. Is role based? Which roles, guys? Two questions in service and how these roles are managed.
The roles are just like a Windows account. We create the user, they have to log in, and then after the login, the permissions are granted by user or group of users.
Okay, that's you.
Okay, so, collaboration, it's a very massive, big subject. Okay, so we can have collaboration in between disciplines, consultants, we can have this collaboration in the same platform, which will be shared across all the team members, no matter which practice or which company or which place in the world they are working. We can talk about collaboration regarding, like the BCF formats where we need to share those files regarding coordination. Okay. So there's a lot of things that we can talk about it. So if you are working in our environment, like, and again, it depends of the contracts that we have in place. So the contracts, some of them, for example, they are super restricted regarding, like cloud-based platforms. They literally don't want us to use the users, I mean, the practices to use cloud-based. And why? Because from their perspective, it's not safe. Like if it's not safe, because sometimes they are saying, yeah, but it's safe, you have a password.
I'm sorry, Decio. We have the third block, cybersecurity, security, and
Okay, so I'll go
privacy.
there.
Let's talk about.
Yeah, I will go there then. So regarding, regarding the collaboration ways of doing it, I can say that we have like the main three ones. So one is like working on each environment. So all the practices will be working on their environment, and they will send over the files. If they are using new forma, email, with transfer, it doesn't matter. So they will send somehow FTP, direct, whatever. So this is one thing. The second thing, which it's easier from the security side, and then we'll touch bases on this one later on, which is the Revit server. Okay, the Revit server can have in my premises installed, and then I can share it across all the team members, even if they are outside of our practices. And then I can control, as Gustavo was asking about the roles, who can have access to what, okay? And making sure, for example, that we can follow all the ISO, workflow regarding work in progress, sharing, publishing, and whatever, archiving, and so on. And then there's another third one, which I think it's not the best one, because for me it's not the best one, but it's the only platform that exists in the market, which is BIM 360. And BIM 360, again, we can use like as we want. With all these roles, we can have different roles. You can access to this one. You need to work your work in progress area. You will be sharing. No one have access to this one apart from myself, which I'm the owner of the hub. Okay, and then I'll be sharing all this information. Then everyone on a monthly, weekly, daily, doesn't matter, or like in a live IPD, for example, IPD system, which everyone is working on top of each other. It's like a mess, but still it's a way of working. And this kind of environments or contracts requirements needs to make sure that, again, all the people, all the users, they have the right skills. They understand whatever it's in there. They understand whatever we need to share, how we need to share things. Because again, there's a lot of information that you are producing on a daily basis, okay? That you need to make sure that if we can, or we should not, or we cannot share that information to the whole team members, if that makes sense. So yeah, all this collaboration, we have everything like available. It's a matter of choosing. Is it in our premises? Yes or no? If it needs to be shared across outside, but we need to still have control of the security thing, which is the Revit server, or the third, which is, like the BIM 360, that all the information lives in the Amazon, whatever, Autodesk, it doesn't matter, servers. And we kind of, we don't have the control of this information from our side in our premises. So this is a very, very sensitive question, because again, there's a lot of legal things that whenever we are working with this collaboration and security and whatever things that we need to have on top of our heads when we are deciding which platform we'll be using it, if that makes sense.
So fine. We have a third block of privacy specifically, that is the confidentiality. Quite good.
Which is very important, actually. It's very super, super important and sensitive on a contract level. And legal as well, because if there is a problem, like for example, let's say BIM 360, which I'm not the owner of the hub, if there is a legal problem and I need to go back when all this information was shared and by who approved, who consumed or whatever, There's no
I
way
know,
because the hub
I
is
know,
not yours. You
I
know,
know.
so this is a very sensitive, I would say, subject as well. But okay,
Okay,
let's
no,
move
no,
this, you know,
let's go.
forwards.
Quite
Yeah, yeah.
interesting. The other thing, we are going to the fourth block. The final block is IPD, and we are talking about the early design stage, and then we are connecting with the customer. We are connecting with the client, the owner, the investment fund, the consultants. As you say, Decio and Silvio talk about all the time about consultants, this large team with a lot of people, some from legal, some from experiential, some from several companies. And then co-design. We are talking about how we co-design with the client, with the people that has the knowledge, the know-how about how it works. For example, retail, for example, an airport, for example, are companies that knows the work, but doesn't know how to build the facility, okay, in the infrastructure. And then let's go to the co-design. And which are the tools of co-design in your case? What are you sharing with somebody? Some from, for example, in your device, the people has an application connected with the server or something like that, which is the solution to connect directly and to receive the reviews from this consultant. That's the point right now. You can, guys, you decide.
Silvio, go ahead.
This block, we change between blocks, okay?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Let's go
It's fair
ahead.
enough, fair enough, fair enough.
Okay, for this project-wise 365, which is the internet solution from Bentley, as I was talking before, Bentley has now implemented this service in their portfolio. That's I was comparing last month, although it's confidential now, but I had to compare a solution, 3 solutions for a client with BIM 360, project-wise 365, and another solution 24/7 from Blixis, which is another software provider. And I had a good feeling that from the baseline, they're good. There are, of course, there are differences between them, but they do the job by now. We will talk we will talk later about the IPD, but by now, I feel that they do the same. They comply with all these requirements. It's a good thing to see because competition is good because we have more solutions available in the market, so we can choose within them. And thinking about this, we usually, when we have to do the co-design, we can use, of course, my company is not attached to Bentley. We use everyone. Last project we did this using co-design was with Trimble. Not a good experience, but we use Trimble to check if everything worked fine. We have some issues there, but it worked okay because we could do this job using co-design with the client, so the client could see how the modeling was going, how the project was evolving. But I think there's a lot of points to move on in the AEC industry, because this process of co-design is a common thing in product design, because when Siemens did their solution, they thought about that because the client doesn't want to see the shape of the product only. It also wants to check costs and schedules for production and everything else. But not as I was saying, it's not only a matter of looking at the model or at the drawings of the model or the schedules of quantities of the model. It's also important for product design, the resources, timings, and everything on. And I feel that our solutions in AEC industry is still behind, but they are getting there. We are getting there. I believe we will get there.
Okay, co-designing. Co-designing, it's a very important area, which again, once more, Autodesk, with all their, solutions, even though, all the other software houses, small software houses, partners, whatever you want to call, they cope with, with Revit in this case, because everyone wants to connect their services with Revit. So on that note, I think it's easier on a daily basis to use whatever you want. It depends with who you are working and how you want to set up your workflow. And this is, I think, it's the most important thing, is to set up your own work sets, which needs to be flexible enough for you to adapt that one. For example, if the client has their own, like requirements, and if it's this flexible enough, there's a lot of solutions all over the place. So we need to know, okay, we are confident to work with with Rhino, with Revit, and with this one, which platforms like satellite platforms works on that specific, collaboration or co-design workflow that you want to use. We can use BIM 360, for example. Again, it's not the best one, I would say. It's the only one. That is, it's the best one because it's the only one which interacts, in a good way, in the directional, bi-directional, flow with all the consultants and coming back to the, to the architecture, structure, whatever, which discipline, or even from the owner. So we can use everything, all this kind of, communication. We can know, like on the fly, which file we are sharing. We can just click there. We have a viewer. We can see all the sheets. You can do revision clouds, no matter if you are using like your smartphone, iPads. Everyone has iPads. You can download, work offline. Now we have, again, integrated, for example, issue trackers, platforms, for example, BIMtrack or BIM Collab, or any other, which they are integrating even more with softwares, visualization softwares like Enscape, for example. So you can use the virtual reality with you, and then you can go through the model, see an issue there in the project, and then you can just click there, type in some text, do a markup, and it goes straight. It's like sucked into the cloud platform, and it goes straight to the, to the user, and he can see like a graph shot, say, okay, this is our issue, this is what we need to sort this out, no matter if it's architectural, client, or whatever. So there's a lot of tools all over the place. I think the main thing is first, and again, this is what I used to say, because sometimes, it's a matter of skills. Again, we are always talking about skills, like improving skills, making sure that the team, they are all aware of this, all these workflows. If you are using Bluebeam, it's a different, workflow. Now Autodesk bought the one, I don't recall the name, something Plant, which is like the PDF, manager, that they will going to bring that into the BIM 360. But again, it's a matter of, knowing exactly which workflow you want to use. If you are allowed to use those softwares, because the majority of them, because it's super dynamical and bi-directional, it goes and it comes straight away on a live, environment, is if you can use for security, as we spoke, or as I spoke before, and we will speak after, but there's a lot. And again, I don't want one single piece of software that does the whole thing. For me, why? Because if I have a piece of software that does and allows everything, I will be like orphan of that software, first. And second, that piece of software, it will be very complicated. And then if I want to use a better one on this specific area, let's say visualization, which from my experience, I think BIM 360 doesn't have. It works with the DWFX at the background to see like the viewer, the online viewer. So I need to use, from the design point of view, I need to use, for example, Landscape or Lumion or whatever, because it's very straightforward. But all this flow of information needs to be very, very fast and very, like clear for everyone. In this way, we can, use. And again, I'm having like the BIM model, and what can I take from there? Like it's having like a Ferrari. in my home, and then I can go with a 60 miles per hour, 160 or whatever, because everything is in there. I can extract information to the VR. I can extract information for asset management. For example, I can export information now because we are doing that and more and more and more, which is the augmented reality, like seeing exactly why they are doing these holes in the wall, why they are doing these beams, what's going to go through across all the buildings and so on. So all of these, and because all of us, we have like all these gadgets with us, it's easier. You can open it, and some of them, they are free, they're for free, and super, 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 handy, I would say, on that one for this co-design, coordination, collaboration.
Yeah,
But again,
two different philosophies.
Yeah.
Is one system based on the activity of third parties that creates a lot of things, and the other, a large companies created everything. Sometimes you miss something, but on the other side, you have the structure of quite interesting that the prescriptor, the BIM manager, has the opportunity to choose whatever solution. But on the side of the co-design, you guarantee our viewers from the Revit perspective, from the OpenBuildings perspective, that the reviewer receives something in this kind of device, see the building, see the situation, and says, I don't like that, I don't see that, there is a problem here, and then mark up, then create a BCF, a BIM collaboration format, and send to the editors, send to the team, and no file at all. Receives and acts, and then it's transparent for me. I see my home, or I see the building, or we are deciding, the asset manager, that this is not the right way. I sign and says everything is bad, or something is, and send to the editors. No file, no send, no email, no nothing. Goes directly to the, it's okay? Is that way?
Yeah, and again, with these devices, like opening BIM 360, for example, this is an example. I'm not saying, I'm not selling, Autodesk, and how Autodesk behaves on this one. But even with these devices, it's quite simple. And if I want to share a model or a sheet or an approval of an issue or whatever, it goes only to me. It doesn't go across all the team members. It goes straight to the person who's responsible to decide, to the decision makers, let's call this way. So
Yeah.
it goes straight into there. Only him can see it. You will reply, you will answer, you will keep there until, the due date, for example, because you need to double check with their team or whatever.
Yeah.
But, this is very live information. So, like, all this information is getting back to us, to the design team. So it's for the project itself, like to have like a better project, result, design, whatever. It's much way easier and faster, with all these softwares and plugins, everything. It's only to make our life as a designers much way easier and faster. All this communication, again, this is about BIM and skills and so on, and people. We all know this, this thing, but it's, like, communication is key. This is what I used to say. Communication is key. BIM is not a software, but without a piece of software, there's no BIM. It's impossible, to make sure that all this information flows across all the team members. It's impossible.
Silvio, something to add before to change the subject to cybersecurity? Both of you guarantee the clients and the customers and the consultant that is easy, are connected, see everything, and says what they don't want. And that is the thing that can come from the consultants, because they are not doing the design. Silvio?
Well, the only thing I want to add, that I'm starting to see this need for co-design from our clients now. Okay. That we have the participation of the investor in the design phase since the beginning, and the investor wants to see what's going on. But also the same applies for skills. The investor now has to have someone with skills to manage with a BIM model, for example. This is interesting.
I believe the same. I believe the same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which
yeah,
again,
definitely. Go ahead.
the tools itself, it's much way, they're becoming even easier and easier and easier, like easier and easier. Even my sons, you with 9 years old, they can manage and go through a building and see whatever, and they can understand it. Augmented reality, it's pretty much the same. It's much way easier, because people, they don't know how to read like 2D drawing, like it's 2D, it's like a floor plan, a section, elevation, whatever. So it's there. They don't have this, how do you say, exercise of doing and seeing it in 3D worlds. But even if you give them like a 3D element, they will see it, but they don't really realize the scale and the proportion and everything. So all these immersive things with the VR or AR or whatever, it gives the opportunity for the users, the client itself, to be in it and understand what is 3 or 9 square meters, what it means 6 meters high, or what is 5 meters apart from here. It's easier because you are inside, you can feel the whole thing. It's much way different, like seeing in the gadgets. Okay, this is a 3D, so it's different experience, I would say.
Okay, let's go to the third block, and do me a favor. You are so good, and you can exchange the word between one each other, and says we have a subject that is cybersecurity. If there's an accreditation there, security is the security of the data. When you are modeling, nobody can make bad things or bad guys going inside and doing, by mistakes or by conscious bad things. And on the other side, there is privacy. Privacy confidentiality is like we are talking about where the data is, okay? Cybersecurity. Bad guys don't come to the project and do bad things. The communication between the dots, I guess, is the question of encryptation from my point of view. It's the collaboration process, not alone. And the security is how we track everything. Which are the possibilities of your environment to track, or with some piece of software mixed, and how it goes, and if security is guaranteed. And the other is privacy. Let's talk at the final point. Let's talk about cybersecurity and security, and then privacy is a different question. Okay, cybersecurity and security, please.
Yes, Bentley is a partner for Cloud Security Alliance and also has a ISO 27001, actually, I believe it's that, for their services. So security is complied by this ISO certification, and this alliance, they provided, they have this information in their website, so it can be accessed at any time from anyone. And when we talk about this project-wise 365, which is in the cloud, it also uses the same servers from Amazon or from Microsoft, but basically the main provider for them is Microsoft, as I saw the last paper from them. So Microsoft Azure services and Microsoft servers provide the security of this information.
Yeah, regarding security and cybersecurity, it's from my perspective, from my experience, it's a very sensitive subject, because there's a lot of things related, and this one, all this process needs someone very super skilled to make sure that all this information is secure. I don't know. It's not believing that internet it's not secure, but there's a lot of things that we need to be aware of. Like when we are sharing confidential information, and that's why even some of our clients, I mean, all over the place, they don't want some of their projects to be in any cloud services. It's not allowed. And my experience in the past was some of them, they have like someone on their teams checking, like in the social medias, LinkedIn and whatever, if there is any information and from where that information came. So again, this is a super sensitive, point. And that's why, for example, from my perspective, BIM 360 was not that secure as it is now. Okay, they need to improve still, but now they are getting better. And why? Because now they allow the connection with SSO, the single sign-on, for example. So that is, if someone leaves one of the practices which is using, you just click this. It's like a domino thing. So it goes and it then connect everything. And this is critical for from the project. If you have this security, and cybersecurity thing, in place, and if you need to comply with those ones. So the ISO, I don't remember the number as well, but the ISO security thing, yes, it needs to be guaranteed. No matter if it's from Autodesk, from anyone. If it's not, that is, we don't use it. We should not be using it because again, it's super sensitive. And now, even now, like in nowadays, with all this pandemic situation, with everyone is accessing remotely from home, so there's a lot of entrances through our, security, silo or whatever you want to call. So everything that goes in and out needs to be controlled at some point. And this is a super big challenging, because as we all know, there's a lot of, hackers all over the place trying to get our data. Our from all of us. It's not from my data, because I don't care if I have Gustavo's email ID or, it's, pointless, let's call this way, or my email ID or my bank account, okay, if they go there, they'll take like £5. That's fine, because it's the only thing that I have in my bank account, but from the architectural or from the investor or from the client itself, it's not like that, because it can ruin your investment or your project, because it will become public. And if it's public, everyone knows, and there's a lot of speculation and everything on top of that one, and that's an issue. So how can we track? It's difficult. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. We need to track with a lot of softwares, spywares, antivirus, whatever, because we need to know exactly what's going on. Okay, and I experienced in the past, for example, some of the plugins. I'm not going to say any, but yeah, some of the plugins sometimes just to export and to get the PDF. So we have all this data in all of it. Let's say, for example, an airport or an hospital or whatever, all the room data sheet information into one single piece of software. And then when you are exporting all this data, for example, into a PDF, like having like a report or anything from all the rooms that I have in my project, and that piece of software, when exporting into PDF, because it was a super big one, they have a small little service which was requesting, kind of help to the Google, servers to help and to help the performance of exporting all this data and put together a PDF. And that service, like it's only for this PDF, it was blocked by the system. Because why? Because if there is something connecting outside of the network for some reason, there's a security issue. So we need to understand which information goes and which information comes in. So all this security and cybersecurity, it's very, very, very sensitive. And Autodesk used to say, yeah, we have a password. I don't care. Password, it's a password. Anyone can hack a password, can go into your Microsoft, because hackers love going through the Microsoft everything, to hack passwords if you are saving and, editing. And again, it's more challenging now because everyone is accessing remotely from anywhere. So, I can be here, I can be in Portugal, I can be US, I can be anywhere part of the world, and I can access to my computer in whatever it's in. Okay, so there's a lot of more, gates open, and needs to be controlled. Okay, so all of this, and again, based on the client requirements, for example, after this pandemic, again, another example is we can have like a contract saying, okay, you know what? All this information cannot go out from the office, and then you can even control, this is another important thing, is even interior in our inside of the practice itself, I can have like a very confidential project, which I need to make sure that not all the users within the practice have access to that specific project and to that specific data or to that specific information. You know what I mean? And this needs to be controlled from the cybersecurity outside and from the security even inside of our premises. You know what I mean? So this needs to be controlled. And again, there's another point, which is the design side of things. For example, it was interesting because once, a few years ago, I worked in a prison. So no one, apart from some of the key, like project managers or client or whatever, so only of those key ones, they know, they have like a bigger and complete overview of the project, because no one from the project can have access to the whole thing. So you'll be working here, but you cannot even see whatever is coming from there. Why? For security reasons, because no one can know exactly where are the tunnels if you want to, to escape from the prison or whatever.
Real security reasons, 9D.
Yeah,
reasons.
exactly.
Okay.
So it's from the project, it's from the data, it's from outside, so it's all these security things. If you need to put in place, yes, you need to be aware of that one, because again, it's very, very sensitive.
Okay. Something to add from your side, Silvio?
Oh, this explains a lot for us. That's
Okay.
very nice.
And then quite interesting that we are talking about in 21 about this kind of details with the experience. Revit is not this kind of thing with an escape that gives you or OpenBuildings renders and it's funny for us to work and we enjoy to model there. We are talking about real society issues solved and work in progress. It's quite interesting because the level of expertise, the level of the discourse and the narrative is evolving faster and faster.
Yeah. And small things like, Gustavo was talking about Enscape. Enscape, it's not a bad or a good example. It's one example as many other ones. Yeah. But I was thinking, for example, you can export your model and it can be available, through a link. So I can send you through a link and you can just click that one, and from somewhere in the clouds that no one knows exactly what it is, you can see it. We cannot cope with this one because it's impossible. You don't control it, Yeah. So we need to know exactly, even, this 3D 60, you can have your device and you can see everything all over the place. That's a bunch of photos stitched one with each other that does the whole thing. So this is something that it needs to be in the clouds. So we can't, because we don't know where that cloud is. So if we don't know exactly where that is, we'll not be using it.
That's
small
the point.
Things, small things.
That's the point. We continue, Defi, with this kind of thing. Privacy, servers, where the servers are, which is the issue here, which is the problem, which is the problem of the cloud. The next cloud of BIM will be huge, will be probably 2 or 3 or 4 times the current cloud, because the data from the built environment will be huge and the use will be increasingly intensive. Privacy. Which are the issues you see in the system that you have for collaboration? Not specifically, don't open the gate, but recommendations, overall recommendation and your needs as a BIM managers to request to prescribe the software and the pieces and match the expectation of the legal and internal IT team. Okay, let's talk about that and your opinion and your thoughts and your experience about that for the audience.
From my perspective, when it comes like this security thing, whatever platform you are using, it needs to be manageable in a way that we can control who's accessing and how they are accessing. If they are editors, if they are viewers, if they can see part of it, everything, if they can change, if they can send requests, if they so for us it's critical. Like, okay, we have our work in progress, which is this one. I want to control who's going to have access to this one. And that's it. I think this is the main reason, because if we have this one in my work in progress, and it can be from the architectural, but it can be from the project itself, then I can create small, like small teams. Like for architectural, you'll see this work in progress. For the engineering, we'll have this one, and then we can set up like a proper CDE, let's call this way. Okay, and then everyone have their own workflow, but as an overall workflow, everyone follows exactly the same flow of information. It goes and it comes this way, always comes and goes into this way. So I think from that perspective, like any piece of software, I need to control exactly which kind of information will be accessible, and how, if I want to export that information to someone else, how it will be done. Okay, and if it's secure, because again, if the server, the security requirements in Europe are different from the US, for example.
Yeah.
They are completely different. Here they are more, more picky, like here and there. I'm not saying that it's best or worse. It's not my, my goal, my call to that one, but they are different. They say, yeah, but we are secure because we have a password, but here it's not enough. So you need to have like a second, way of registering your by phone, by whatever.
After, yeah.
Yeah, but this is a security thing as well. So if you want to go into the system, you need to go through both. You need to use the email ID, whatever, with your password, and then you will receive like a code, and you need to fill that in, and then you will have access to whatever. Okay, so all of this, tiers of access, let's say, like, okay, this is the management, the BIM manager, whatever, you can set up the whole thing. It needs to be there. Another important thing that Gustavo was saying is the legal. The legal, for me, it's one of the most important things that no one, from my perspective or from my knowledge, is aware. It's not aware. It's not, like thinking,
Not
even
worry,
thinking,
no?
not worried. Exactly, that's the word. And why? Let's say we have a project today, or like today, and then we do all the things, it goes to the site, there's an issue in 5 years, 8 years time, maybe 10 years time, because it's a super long project, and we were working BIM 360, and the hub itself, it was from the client, or let's say the Autodesk, just disappear, like it's gone, like someone bought it, like Bentley goes there and buy Autodesk, and now Autodesk doesn't exist, and all the product goes to the, to the bin. So if I need to go back in 10 years time, okay, yeah, this decision was made by you on that day and so on, how we will go back in a legal, to something which doesn't exist anymore because it's in the clouds? How can you prove that that one on that day happened? Even there's a lot of solutions outside in the market that you can download all this data from BIM 360, but what I used to say is give a try. Download all this JSON, whatever, IFCs, Revit files, which is somewhere in the cloud. Download it, everything, and try yourself from your side, put things together to try to understand all the workflows that it's, stored in the BIM 360. It's impossible, I can tell you. It's impossible. So from the legal team, the legal side, there's a very, 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 very big, big, big problem.
It's scary, yeah.
It's super, from the legal point of view, it's scary. It's super, super, super scary. And I'm not even thinking from the Autodesk side is,
Yeah.
the updating the files on a version, like basis, let's say, because in 10 years time, maybe for some reason, Windows 10 is not going to exist anymore. Revit 2021 doesn't exist anymore. It's not even compatible, with the new versions of the operation system. So how can we, update the model itself? It's impossible. It's literally impossible. And this is what I'm
You open the
always.
Pandora's box.
This is exact, but this is important, because this is related with what we are discussing here, But anyway, so again, long short story, this is a very, very, very big issue that we need to start thinking how and where this data is, and how can I retrieve that data and make sure that I have it on my premises before Autodesk or the client, switch off the access, because then I don't have access to anything. And from the legal, I'll have with the clients.
Okay. Okay. One, Silvio.
Yes, that's interesting. There was a time when we had clay tablets from Sumerians that the information is only there, and if you want a copy, we had to have a hard copy. So if I have the information is mine. Okay. Also, when we delivered a floppy disk with all our projects in a floppy disk, it was a way to ensure that the information exists only in that floppy disk. Okay, but now we are facing these problems with internet and so on, and the availability or not, the history of the files. Okay, this is very big, and we were talking about privacy. It was that. Not even the big companies today, if we talk about Facebook or anything like that, they can't ensure that information is completely secure and
Protected, no?
hack proof. But okay, the companies are making their efforts to that to ensure, but I don't know. Probably if we want complete privacy, we have to have like Bitcoin security, of course. But this is on another point. There are two things about privacy also, which is I have to have the option to choose which information is being shared to whoever wants my information. Okay, I believe Europe has a strong legislation about that for information for privacy. Brazil has some specific laws for that also, not as closed as the European option. And American companies just like Autodesk and Bentley has they're more flexible for that. So users don't know that the information is being collected from them. Probably it's possible to check if I click 100 times in the file option in my program, it can be collected, and I don't know that it's being collected. So as this is an issue, I don't know how they guarantee. If I want to ask Bentley, I don't want my information being collected. I know I have a button to check there. I don't want my information being sent, but how can I be sure that anything is being collected? They have a piece of software that runs beside OpenBuildings, which is an advisor, Bentley advisor. The advisor knows that I have a question. I will search it for an information in the help field, in the search field. It collects information from wherever it has, from internet or from their own databases for my question. So how do I know that they're not collecting other information from my daily activities?
Yeah, but Silvio, because even when you are installing the software and you have this,
Yes.
I agree, the EULA, EULA,
Yeah.
some of this information is there. So it's your decision, yes or no. If you say no, you cannot install the software. If you say yes, you need to agree with that one. And that's it. And they are protected. Yeah, you said yes, it's here. You see, it's there. It's clear. Did you read it? No, well, it's your problem. It's there. It's our contract. It's
Yes,
tricky.
it's true.
It's tricky.
I was reading some days before because this project I was working on. Bentley has a page for privacy. They provide the opportunity for the user to ask what information they want to share, but you have to make contact with them and ask that. So for us that are common users, the most majority of us doesn't read the when you install the software, we don't read the instructions, but okay. At least they are saying in their web page, they provide the option. I believe all software makers do the same. It's a point of concern for us.
And then we open again. This is not the right place to expand it, but it's a new issue. We are so close to the perfect solution. I guess we are seeing the perfect solution next year, but we are evolving, and then privacy issues are creating an issue in the implementation of the software as a service, cloud solutions, etc. is compatible with Google or Amazon Web Services or so on, Microsoft servers, Azure. It's an issue for the big techs, no? The big techs want to enter in the digital twin technology and then provide asset management also, not only modeling, BIM and name. Okay, and let's talk about in the future about that. Let's enter in the last block, and only 2 questions in that block. The first one now for you is the eco-efficiency. The eco-efficiency is so-called 4D time, 5D cost, and 7D, more or less energy. We reduce to energy analysis, not so bad. Net zero, passive house, etc., etc. And then the 4D, 5D, and 7D information that comes for the decision making of the client about the performance, about the overall conditions from the investment. The time you spend, the money you will spend, and the performance of the different solutions. And then this kind of information comes from within your environment. Some can be, other cannot, and it provides that information by the environment itself, or interoperate with others. Both systems are OpenBIM 4. That's why I don't ask for this kind of thing. But MVD, that is the model view definition, is architecture, is a map, and is a structure, I guess, in the 2 softwares. Okay.
In Revit it is.
Yeah, and then establish these standards that is normally well evolved, these 4 platforms here. And then let's talk about how this information come to the team and then deliver. And then the team can deliver these 4D, 5D, and 7D integrated solutions, that are working on for the client to decide, I want more life cycle, more operations. I want less price for the building, different kind of profiles. Okay.
Yes, 4D synchro, we know that is a very known solution.
Inside,
but
it's inside, or there is inside connected?
Yes.
Is part of the environment of Autodesk or called Bentley. On the other is external, but OpenBIM is interoperable.
Yes, this is interesting because for the synchro is within the Bentley portfolio, but to operate with that, we have to export to IFC to send the model to synchro. For the 5D program itself has the tool for materials and so on. Okay. Efficiency is directly within the workflow. In OpenBuildings has the energy designer within the solution using the same file. And if I forgot something, the scheduling it has interoperability with also Primavera, for example, but it has to export the information to that.
But not in the way of eco-efficiencies, in the way of portfolio management. But it's okay. It's okay. The connection it's okay. But it's not a trap. It's only check for the 5D and 7D information is available. Only to check before to go to the IPD question. Okay, and I appreciate that you have solution for the three issues. Decio?
Yeah, so 4D, 5D, and 7D, it's a matter, again, of managing data. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's adding more data or removing more data or specific data to that specific, 4, 5, or 7D, whatever D we are talking about. So yes, with Revit we can do it. I mean, 4D, it depends which 4D you want to do it, because 4D is a sequence, like of the building. It can be the sequence on site, or it can be a sequence because we have different phases in the project, if that makes sense. And if we have 3 different phases in the project, that is, per each phase we'll have a site construction. Okay,
Yeah.
so that information, it's well done, structured. Revit controls that one super well, because we have phases, because it can be a refurbishment, it can be like a big plot with different phases. We can create different phases, design phases in this case, sequence phases, which is related with the construction on site. On that one, we can control by adding, this information to the geometry itself, because this geometry then will be connected, and it's not in Revit, because Revit doesn't do that. You can export, for example, to Navisworks with all this information in the BIM model, then you can export that information to Navisworks, for example, or Vico or Synchro, sorry, or other software that does the same. And then with this data, it can be linked to a specific task, no matter if it's coming from Primavera or if it's coming from a Microsoft project. And then you will see the sequence of the construction itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, we can work on that one. The data, it's a matter of data, database, and Revit, it's super good on that one. It's very straightforward for you to add or remove or add even more data into the model. So no problems whatsoever on that one. 5D, which is the cost. Okay, yes, it's possible to add cost on a single element, or it's possible to add a classification to the elements, which afterwards can be exported to a very specific software, CostX, for example, or other ones which exist in the market. And that specific code, OmniClass, Uniformat, Master Format, whatever, it's in the market. It can be then exported to that specific project, and it does the link, in between the database, which is coming from OmniClass, table 21, 22, 23, doesn't matter which one, or Uniformat, Master Format, it doesn't matter which one is. And then it will be collected, to a specification or classification, depending which one we are using. And that one will be assigned to a specific cost. Okay, so yes, it's possible. You can do like an overall cost in Revit. Yes, you can. You can do cost per element. You can do cost per type, whatever. But again, it can be as well exported all this data from the database, from the Revit, software, and it can be used in a different piece of software. It's only a matter of knowing all this workflow, what we will get here, that it needs to come from here. 7D environmental. Yes, you can export as well, and even it's not inside of Revit, sort of, but there's a service, online service, which is with a click of a button, you can go and export all this information straight to the cloud, which is the insight, and then you can do this kind of, sort of analysis. Okay, and then you can decide which one. And the good thing is all this analysis, it's reading the project location, the elements itself. If it's an earlier stage design, which you will do like masses, so there's no building element information in the element itself, so it's more masses, and we say, okay, this mass can be like offices or residential or whatever, or you can have like proper walls and doors and floors with materials in it assigned to those specific elements. And all these elements, if we go through Revit, whenever we are doing in Revit before exporting, we can see which kind of, small energy analysis straight away from Revit. And when we are exporting this data, again, it's a matter of exporting the very specific data related with the elements. It can be done in the inside, click of a button, another click of a button, exporting to a very specific format, XML, GIBIS XML, whatever, and then it can be read from different piece of softwares with plugins, specific softwares, and then can read whatever it's coming from the BIM model. And then they can decide whatever, what's the outcome from there, from that specific analysis, and then they can go back to design, because everything needs to come from the, you know, the design tool, which is Revit itself.
Okay, and then check what is not inside the environment is probably connected. You talk about synchro. Decio, the people who are watching us now will say that this is a question of decide. I am more using Revit or the environment, but I am not a fanatic. We need to solve issues, and we have a lot of pieces of software systems that connect or insist in each other. And OpenBIM seems to be increasing the value, but there is solutions inside the software makers, then in the catalog of the software makers in the streets. And then check 4D. Even 4D simulation, I don't ask Silvio about the 4D simulation, you know, the see the sequence for the construction to see visualization, that's an agile methodology, to see the visualization of how it works for the consultants or the construction phase and so on, to see which are the problems there, you know. 4D simulation is okay, is ready, Navisworks or Synchro is doing the job, I guess. Synchro is doing the job of
Synchro
simulation.
does the thing, yes,
Okay.
exactly.
And then you have Synchro Vico, you have competitors there, you have 5D different solutions. There is now coming some solutions like Mamba that comes from a community of users that use the API of Revit for Revit to create a different kind of code simulation in real time, all the time. And then 7D, Insights, I guess, and energy simulation or other software that is connected. But it's the interoperability is in real time, you send, somebody does, and the result you obtain in real time, more or less, in actual time. Okay, then we are prepared. We're prepared for the conclusion of this BIM one-on-one. Everything is ready for the IPD. I only want your conclusion about if your system will work and will support the process of the owner to propose the IPD, the Integrated Project Delivery, is prepared for the early design stage and everything is working good. Which is your opinion?
From my opinion, go ahead, Sylvia. Go ahead, Sylvia.
No, generally speaking, very quickly, IPD requires a good workflow because we are talking about the responsibility of everything, every phase of the project must be set as you were saying before. That I have to have the tools to check the information that was approved some years ago to check if who did it right or who did it wrong. So when we talk about an IPD, we are talking about a shared responsibility. So everything must be controlled from the workflow, the approval workflow of the project, for example. So generally speaking, yes, Project Rise has the tools to do that. But as I see the market now, we have few companies. Probably yours has these workflows well managed. But in general, here, actually, if I say the Brazilian market, for example, we don't see yet the companies checking all these workflows globally, completely controlled in a way that they can say that can deliver or sign a new project in this integrated project delivery process. Okay, but I see that this is the future because when we talk about more money, larger companies, and then again saying about the product design and product manufacture, and so some talk about Siemens. Okay, so, by the way, they have to do that, the delivery of the project in the IPD process, of course. But for the AEC, the construction industry, we have these issues. We have to have first the process well designed and well implemented. I believe this is just a point of view. Okay, I believe Decio has more experience in that.
Well, IPD states for integrated project delivery. So this is for me, from my understanding, it's a matter of contractual level.
Yeah.
So this is only contractual, and that's it. So no matter what is approved in there, we need to, we need to follow, or to, to stick with whatever is coming from there. So if we don't have IPD, we have what I used to say, it's the design and build, like, okay. And it's a matter of contractual thing. So if the contract says that all of us will share the same issues, like problems, savings, fees, whatever, because it's coming from the same contract.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of trust in between all the consultants, including the contractor and the client, for sure. I would say that for the client itself, I would say it's easier, more beneficial at least. So this is one thing. And the design build, it's a contract per each. So the risk is smaller for the practices, for the disciplines, I would say. So for me, this is super clear. And from the technical sides, I would say that the technology itself, it's almost there, almost. There's a few couple of things that needs to be done, improved, but from the technology wide, it's there. So, and then it's missing two important things, which you already spoke about: the collaboration versus trust. Okay, so we need to trust in other ones. Well, it's like the two. It's the collaboration and the trust. Collaboration, because all these workflows, as Sylvia was saying, needs to work, and everyone needs to work in a proper way, because there's no restricted areas for me and for you. I'll be working with your file. I can open your work in progress. It's like in a mess. We are, like eating in the same pot, let's call this way, because we're like grabbing and taking whatever we need. So I need to trust you that you will not be opening my files. So again, this is the most
charge you. Or
yeah,
charge
yeah,
you.
or charge or whatever. So this is a super important thing, which I think we are not there yet. We have
Yeah.
different levels of knowledge and BIM maturity, even, like it's different. So, and from my experience, I have this every single day. Like every single day, I can see that there's someone from both sides. It's not saying that I'm the best one and I know everything. No, because sometimes they don't know, sometimes I don't know, sometimes it doesn't know, sometimes it's their first project or whatever. Okay. And the last one, it's legal. Legal, why? Depends of the project. Because some of the projects, the public, for example, you cannot have this IPD solution. Why? Because it's like, let's say, an airport. So we need to do like a competition. And when doing a competition, we will know who will be the designers. So we don't know which one is the structural, we don't know who's the contractor, we don't know anything. And it's not legal. It's not legal. We cannot. There's no way in the public, projects to do like, it's you that you're going to build. It's you that you're going to be designing. It's you. It's going to be managing whatever. So I think there's still a lot of things to do. The technology, it's almost there. I would say 80-ish, 5%. It's there. There's a lot of things that needs to be done on that perspective. The solutions itself, it's not project wise, it's not BIM 360. It's much more than that one. It's much more than that one, because there's a lot of things that needs to be accessible. And the legal and the trust versus maturity, let's call this way.
Oh, so interesting. And then you see the technology, the question of the technology we reveal to the public in this BIM 101, and it's completely out in the space right now, because you are watching that. Everyone can watch this, your opinions about that. The question is, clients are coming, investment funds, owners, operators, that because right now the business is not build and sell, the business is operate and experiential, and then are coming and see and say, it's BIM or it's IPD, and they conclude that it's IPD and it's more legal, but technology is there on your point of view? I guess so, but let's open in this question of, are we available to deliver at technology level? BIM managers are prepared to deliver IPD? for the client? BIM managers, not organizations. Let's talk about the BIM manager that is closer to the client, okay?
No, I don't think so. I think we still
think
have
not?
like a
Okay.
very big gap. I think there's a lot of things that we need to do on that note. Yes.
Which points you see the advances that must be done from the 21, because there is a lot of issues solved, but we have issues ahead.
I mean, again, I think everything falls in the same pot, which is skills. I mean, people needs to understand what is an IPD, what needs to be achieved to get that one.
Okay.
And I think this is the main thing for me. If people doesn't know exactly what is an IPD and what it involves, I mean, we can know. I can know Revit from the top of
collaborative culture,
everything.
then, no?
Yeah. So all of these things that we've been
understand.
discussing here, the maturity, all of this culture, all of this trust and everything, communication, it needs more and more and more. And the practices itself, they are still very protective from whatever they are producing, which it doesn't work when we are working with IPD. With IPD, everything needs to be available to everyone, and we don't want to share our bits. I don't want to share my template because it took like a lot of effort on this one. It doesn't matter. It's pointless, completely pointless. And meanwhile, when people doesn't understand that this is pointless, it's not even a discussion, we will have this as an issue. So it's more cultural thing rather than, technical. It's almost there, as I was saying. There's legal points,
Okay,
but again.
Okay. As a BIM manager,
technical point, I
go
believe
ahead, Silvio.
if the market wants to buy something like this, they will provide that. But by now, we still find people who doesn't even haven't listened about what is a CDE, for example. We have to explain what is a CDE. So when someone has to be explained about a CDE, we can talk about IPD with them. We have to first step back and explain which steps you must take to acquire first a good environment to work with and all the processes involved. And then we can talk about an IPD review. So this is the problem for process skills and everything else.
Okay.
This is where we have to ask. So that's why I believe that technically we're almost there, but if the market pressures, the companies will provide us these functionalities.
And then in my conclusion, I guess I see this almost full. We fill the glass, okay, and we are there. But technically, I conclude in all the events and all your conclusions is there is no technical problem for the IPD here. Environments are prepared. We have some issues that we are solving specifically for continents. We are talking about the problem of Europe with the United States, with the legal, but we are in this kind of legal. This is not a problem of being collab with project-wise, with BIM 360, Autodesk Construction Cloud. That's not the point here. And then that's the conclusion of the technology. The technology is available, and then see how we create the culture on the society, on the actors of the industry, and the industry that is around the built environment industry.
Because what we are saying, Gustavo, it's a very good point. And that's why I think the technology is not yet there. Because if you are working with someone from Australia and from US, where are you going to have the server? So, so you will have latency, you will have delays, you will have issues, you will have a lot of problems that it needs to be sorted. Even if you want to use VDI environments, a VDI environment, even though some of the software doesn't work yet in there, there's a lot of delays. So there's a lot of, small things, but at the end it does like a big thing. Small here, small there. If you start, collecting all these small things here and there, then you will have a problem. And this is where I'm pointing, where from the technology side, it's not Revit or OpenBuilding or ArchiCAD or Allplan or whatever. they can do whatever. It's exactly the same from the software, the operator itself, the modeler or the designer. It's exactly the same. It's a contractual thing. It's nothing related with the software like Revit, you know, the main software. It's not relating with that one. It's like this small point here and there that does the difference. And that's why I'm saying that the technology is still not there because of that. We are still struggling using VDI or different solutions like Talom. It's a lot of issues. There's a lot of issues, a lot of issues.
Okay, and this is that's the question for the next season and the evolution of that. But I guess we can trust in technology and then focus on the education in the collaborative culture of the whole stakeholders to request something that they know. That's what it is. No, we know IPD, we know, and the creators of the IPD and all these kind of thing. We talk about design build. I remember in the 14th that talking about design build. What is design build? What is progressive design build? That as say the guys from design builders from the United States. What is integrated design build? No, right now we have no problem with that. But the rest of the people around must understand. And I guess this is a technology, more basis on technology, but we are talking about collaboration. And then there is a lot of people out there that I'm seeing you and hearing your concept in what we are talking about. Thank you guys for this session that was so complete, the one-on-one Revit OpenBuildings, but we have here something that is completely different from the rest of the Revit presentations. Is Decio has the opportunity to be present in projects and create the technologies and the BIM manager, the architect, and has the global vision. And then Silvio has this vision by design, because Bentley goes this way, but then goes down and you have the complete vision of the market. And it's quite important that the people sees the situation. I guess we conclude that technology is not really the problem, and we have people that manage that. The question is the culture. Thank you guys for this conclusion.
Thank you, Gustavo, for the invite and to the opportunity to sharing and learning our knowledge with all of you, with Silvio and with you and all the attendees as well. And I mean, BIM is this, you know, like sharing and learning, and it's about collaboration actually. Thank you, Silvio and Gustavo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Decio. It's a pleasure to hear.
Okay, see you in the next event, and thank you for our attendees for being there, and see you in the next event of being one-on-one.
See you around, man.
Cheers.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.